All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Formula Maximale YouTube channel here. I'm Chris Cato, and this is the F1 preseason testing day one stream of the second week of F1 testing in Bahrain. I'm very glad that you guys have joined us here this afternoon. And for the first half an hour to an hour or so, I'm going to be joined also by a guest, an old friend of the show. He's been on the podcast a couple of times and some other live stream appearances as well. Of course, I am talking about Josh Martin from SimStaff. So very happy to have him alongside of me. Josh, welcome to the live stream. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, doing good, man. Great to be back and excited to see what's unfolding. Obviously, it's been a pretty busy pre-season testing period so far. So yeah, excited to see what unveils today in the drama on track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pretty busy morning session here too. We're going to do a little bit of a rundown of that action as well. Actually, right now, currently, it's pretty quiet out on track. Only Lewis Hamilton so far. Actually, Lewis Hamilton just went into the pits, so no cars out on track currently at the moment. But let's just kind of quickly go through maybe just the driver lineup. You see that there on your side of the screen there at the bottom right. So really the only big thing that I want to point out today is that Isaac Hadjar on the Red Bull, he's pretty much the only driver doing a full shift. And it's pretty unfortunate for him, actually. Josh, I didn't know if you saw in that AM session, he pretty much only did 13 laps on the day. There was some sort of a water pressure issue on the car, so he didn't get a lot of running in. So it's a lot of work to do today for Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, coming into a new season like this, new regs that everyone's obviously well aware of by this point, there's a couple of teams you obviously expect to kind of have those teething issues. Of course, Cadillac being perhaps one of those, being new to the grids. But then it always does come as a bit of a surprise, right, when you see some of the old guard perhaps having issues. So yeah, plenty of drama to unfold. And I think, depending on the teams, it's a good chance, I guess, to learn when stuff does go wrong as well. We've got a long season ahead of us. And we saw throughout the year, Chris, there were quite a few sort of technical issues that, even if they didn't cause retirements, certainly did delay people with, their results, or even kind of move them down the field less than they expected.
That's for sure. And I mean, it's to be expected with this new regulation set and the new era, but it's been pretty good, honestly, the reliability from all the teams. I mean, we haven't really seen any big blow-ups or failures or anything like that, so it's actually been quite impressive for me through basically from the Barcelona shakedown to the first test and now the start of this week as well. But before we talk a little bit more about the AM session and some of the things that are happening as we wait for the on-track action to pick up, Josh, I'm curious to get your opinions on the new era of Formula One. We've had 3 days of running so far and a half day here that we've been able to actually see live pictures of. And I was talking with a lot of the fans in the chat last week about different aspects, so I'm curious to get your opinions. What do you think of the new formula that we've got in terms of the engines, the cars, and everything else that comes with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, F1's always been known for kind of pushing the boundaries both on and off track. And I think, a reg shake-up like this is always going to cause some drama. I think there's bits that the drivers are perhaps not so happy with. Obviously, Max has had some pretty choice comments about what's going on. But then by contrast, I think we're going to probably see, some closer racing, and the cars being a bit smaller as well, hopefully for circuits like Monaco, make it a bit less of a procession. So I think it's got a lot of potential to be a really good season. There's going to be a lot of unpredictability through this year as the teams kind of learn and adapt. But the nice thing that I always think comes with these kind of reg changes is that you see the teams kind of pushing the boundaries and working out where they can really push those limits on the technical specifications, and that always kind of throws in some dramatic results. So I think on balance, it's going to be really exciting. And of course, the fact that we've got new teams coming in just adds to that mix as well. So
yeah, that's a great part of it, too. We got 11 teams now on the grid. Cadillac hasn't had such a bad start, actually, to their tenure here in Formula One. They've had a lot of reliability kind of issues, not major ones, but small ones. Sergio Perez, again, was a little bit delayed in getting out this morning. But I would agree. And the other thing is that we need to wait until the first couple of races of the season to see what's going to happen. I know there's been a lot made of, for example, the starting procedures in the last couple of days about it potentially being dangerous, about changes potentially coming. Actually, today as we speak, I believe it's just wrapping up or maybe still going on. There's a power unit commission meeting going on about possible engine compression changes and rules and things like that. So I think there's a lot that's still going to happen in between now and Australia where we might see some changes, and then it might even happen after the first couple of races that there might be further changes if things happen to go so badly as maybe some of the drivers or other fans expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the sort of other part of this that a lot of people perhaps haven't touched upon too much is, with these new regs, you also have a lot of drivers who are coming into the season in kind of varying positions as well. You look at Lando, obviously had the best result he possibly could last season. And I wonder if that's going to take the pressure off and allow him to kind of just settle into the car a bit more. He knows that he's done what he set out to do. And, does that mean that we don't see as many mistakes that perhaps we saw last year under pressure? And then by contrast, you got someone like Lawson, who perhaps is kind of maybe not fighting for his seat from the outset, but obviously, he's going to be on that bubble. So yeah, I'm curious, Chris, what you think in terms of the driver lineups for this season. Do you expect there to be a lot of changes towards, mid-season? We've seen that happen before, but what's your kind of read of the driver lineup for this season?
Yeah, and speaking of the devil, actually, Liam Lawson currently out on track, as well as Isaac Hadjar, the driver who's new there at Red Bull. And I honestly, I would be surprised to see if we saw any driver changes mid-season like we did last year, just because of these new cars and the new regulations. I think it would be really difficult for a team to throw in a brand new driver in there, especially with how complicated everything is now with these rule sets. But I mean, you never know. Obviously, Red Bull's kind of the main culprit that we have to look at there if things don't work out with Hadjar. It's going to be really interesting. I think for the rookies it's hard too, right? For drivers like Arvid Lindblad, for example, coming in this year, it's going to be very difficult with just how complex these cars are. But that's the thing, I guess, in Formula One, if you don't deliver, then the team will be forced to do something. But I would be surprised if we saw any sort of mid-season driver changes. I think the big one will be for next season in 2027 with what drivers like Verstappen and Leclerc are going to do, for example, in their search for a new team if they don't be successful this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be super interesting for Lindblad. Obviously, he's coming into a team where historically the car has been built around one driver, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of influence in that for this season. But I guess where Lawson and Sonoda and Perez have had to kind of pick up to that level and learn to drive that type of car, these rules being, or these regs being kind of reset, gives him a chance to kind of go in on a clean slate. So not that I expect him to be trumping Max at any point throughout the season, but potentially you could see some upsets, I guess, in terms of unexpected results, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I definitely think so, and it's a good time for him to change and start with Red Bull because it's a brand new regulation set. Everything is starting fresh. It's not like last season with Sonoda and the whole Lawson mess there. He's going to have a full preseason. So he's going to start, I think, a little bit on the front foot there, Isaac Hadjar. And it's been a little bit difficult for him today, as we mentioned off the top of the show there, guys. Only 13 laps completed so far in the morning due to some sort of a water pressure issue. But he was out on track just a couple of minutes ago, so it looks like that they've got that issue fixed. And yeah, just Josh, to your point there about Arvid Lindblad, he had a very, very good morning. 10th fastest, but that doesn't really matter too much at this point. 75 laps completed in that morning session, so very good so far. We currently got 3 cars out on track, about to be 4 cars out on track. George Russell, Sainz, Oliver Behrman, and Franco Colapinto. You guys are listening to Chris Cato here and Josh Martin over on the other side of the mic. And this is the F1 preseason testing day 1 afternoon live stream. If you guys are listening and watching right now, just drop a comment in the chat where you're watching from. We also got live telemetry from the drivers available as well. So if you want to see your favorite driver up on the screen, just let me know in the chat and I will put that up on the screen right away. So
just talking of,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, Chris, talking to George Russell out on track there. Obviously, there's been a bit of back and forth during preseason testing. Max perhaps hinting that Mercedes are sandbagging, George saying that they're not. I mean, what's your thoughts on how you're reading the pace that we're coming out of preseason so far? Do you think any teams are sandbagging, or do you think it is truly representative at the moment?
Ooh, man, I mean, good question, honestly, because I'm glad you brought that up. I did see a lot of that sandbagging talk, actually, and I'll say this. I don't believe, for example, last week Mercedes was sandbagging. I definitely do believe they had some genuine issues which limited some of their running there with Kimi Antonelli on the second day. And they had a couple of gremlins in this Bahrain test. I don't know how much in regards to the power unit or not, but it hasn't been as smooth as, for example, that Barcelona shakedown was, if you guys remember how much hype Mercedes had as well. So I think in terms of pace, no team has really kind of shown anything really genuine just as of yet. I think we might only get a slight glimpse of that on the final day. So on Friday, maybe we'll get a couple of kind of glory runs. But honestly, from where it's standing right now, and Josh, I'll get your thoughts on this after as well. Right now, I think what's clear is that it's basically the big four teams, which is McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and everybody else is a very long, long way back.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's probably not the worst read in the world. That I'll give you that one. I think, yeah, obviously, like we kind of said at the top of the show, people are always going to be looking to push the regulations, and particularly when you have these new regs come out, the opportunity to kind of be opportunistic around those, I guess, is greater than ever. Obviously, Ferrari bringing their new unique sort of exhaust system as well during preseason testing, and I guess none of us really know until Australia whether it's going to work or be better or worse. But I think you're right. You kind of have to rely on past data with the teams and their development cycles to understand who's going to be where. And I guess what's interesting for me is how quickly will we see the other teams, the best of the rest, or following suit of those top four to kind of converge on perhaps what's the best setup.
It's really hard to tell at this point. I mean, honestly, I couldn't give you an answer. I mean, if we're just basing it off of the hype and the rumors around the paddock and things like that, yeah, you could say it's Mercedes, but honestly, so far, for me, the best team in all throughout the 3 tests that we've had, including Barcelona, I think has been Ferrari. Ferrari, to me, have been the most impressive in terms of they've got the most amount of mileage, most laps completed. They've shown themselves to have some pace. Leclerc, I believe, currently sitting... Yeah, Leclerc's still sitting P1 right now with the 33.7. And just as you mentioned there about that trick at the rear of the car that I just saw this morning, that I'll be talking about more later today, it seems like Ferrari have kind of got their stuff together so far for this season. So maybe it's actually Ferrari, the favorites. I honestly, who knows? I really think we need to wait a couple of races because, I mean, I'm not a betting man, but I really wouldn't want to put money on anybody at this moment.
No, definitely. And I think that's going to come, yeah, like you say, as the season develops. I mean, we had, some upsets throughout the early part of last season, and I think the teams will obviously kind of want to maximize the data that they can get from this. So it's one thing, obviously, running preseason testing, another thing in a race weekend. But yeah, you kind of do have to take that law of averages and see Ferrari definitely do look like they're in the right place. And let's face it, if Hamilton's proved anything throughout his career is that he can make the right jump to the right team at the right time. So yeah, it could be a really interesting season if he's kind of pulled another blinder like he did when he moved to Mercedes.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also got the interesting inter-team battle there with Leclerc because Leclerc is in top form and he got the better of Hamilton for pretty much most of last season. So that would be also really cool to see a battle between the two of them. And yeah, just sticking on Ferrari, I wanted to actually bring up what you were talking about there, Josh, about some of the new updates that were on the SF26 this morning. And yeah, I've got this up on the screen so you guys at home can also see. I'm just going to read this from a quote from the race that they debuted a unique exhaust wing that we were just talking about. Quote, the new aerodynamic element is likely aimed at delivering 2 key benefits for car performance. It could help make use of diverting exhaust gases to help with the way they interact with the rear wing airflow. Furthermore, it could be acting as an extension of the diffuser airflow aimed to help improve performance here and deliver greater downforce, end quote. So basically, to summarize there, it's just all about more downforce, this little trick that Ferrari debuted today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's somewhat reminiscent, I guess, as someone who was newer to F1 around that time. But for Braun, it kind of reminds me of that. There's, yeah, these tricks and stuff coming out, and if it does generate the downforce that they're needing, then that's half the battle for the season, really.
It sure is, yeah. And it's a little bit, I'm not going to say it's a gray area, but I was reading that in previous years, any sort of a bodywork at that area of the car was obviously forbidden in the regulations. But it looks like Ferrari maybe have found some sort of a little loophole here. But from what I've read so far, it looks like it's all legal at the moment. So I don't think anything. But I also read that it might be really hard for other teams to replicate. So Ferrari might have found something here, at least at this part of the car.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing to consider, right, is so many of the teams, they kind of choose when they want to off ramp from last season to start the development on these new cars, right? So different teams moving at different stages in the season to commit time, resource, and money towards it. So it's not like coming away from this preseason test, Mercedes could turn around and go, right, we're going to adopt this overnight. I'm sure within a time period they could, but yeah, it's really interesting to see just how when they're kind of left to their own sort of devices and not intrinsically looking at each other, how the teams interpret these new rules. And again, I just think it's such an exciting part of the new regulations is to see these kind of weird and wonderful tricks come out. And it's not just about being the quickest over one lap on a Saturday. You have got a full race distance, and the car needs to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and we did see that too, right at the beginning of the last regulation set in 2022. You had a lot of different designs between the teams. It wasn't just sort of all the same as they sort of ended up being toward the end of the regulation set. So that's also exciting at this part of the season too, as you see a lot of the different concepts. There are some similar designs that we've seen in between the teams, but there's also a lot of differences as well. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. I think the development war and the upgrades will be very rapid for this season with it being such a new formula. So yeah, so currently we're about 20 minutes or so into this live stream here, about an hour gone into the session. Charles Leclerc still the quickest at the moment, and we have Lando Norris in second and Kimi Antonelli in third, currently rounding out the top three. We've got, let's see, 5 drivers out on track. Oscar Piastri just doing a practice start there at the end of the pit lane, and he's going to be out on track in just a moment. And we're also just showing right now Lance Stroll of Aston Martin currently out on the track and out on our screens. What are your thoughts, Josh, so far on Aston Martin? It's been a pretty rocky start for their season. Didn't really make it to the Barcelona shakedown, only a couple of laps on the final 2 days. And it's been another difficult start this week in this Barcelona test too. Alonso had some troubles this morning that limited his running to only 28 laps. So what do you make so far of Aston Martin, a team that was kind of hyped up to maybe be a challenger for the big teams this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting with Aston because you obviously had that headline news with Newey moving over, and I think kind of it split the F1 audience a little bit into two about it. There was those who perhaps were newer to the sport were going, okay, this guy has done some really cool stuff. We're expecting him to make an immediate impact. And then you had some other people who perhaps understood that, it's not one man alone that builds the car and runs the team. So I think really what we're seeing here with Aston is that cultural change that needs to be made. You kind of need a consensus to move with that mindset that Newey has. And I know they've had some quite extreme adaptations to kind of the cooling of the engine throughout the testing. So it's tricky. I don't know what to make of it, Chris. I think Aston are always a team that, when the circumstances are right, I think could benefit. But it's once in a blue moon that seems to be happening. I mean, I don't know what you make of them at the moment and what you've been seeing.
I would agree. It isn't just a one-man job. It's a whole technical team that's behind the design of these cars, and it's been disappointing. Let's say it has been such a disappointing start so far, based on, of course, they've got the new factory, the new wind tunnel. They're I mean, essentially they have a works team right now, with Honda being the only supplier to Aston Martin. But I guess at the same time, it's not too much of a surprise that they are struggling, because Newey did come in about 4 months late, while the design of the 2026 car was already underway. And then you also have to keep in mind that Honda was out of the sport just a couple of years ago, and then they decided to re-enter the sport, so they were also behind in developing this engine as well. So I guess when you take all that into consideration, it isn't such a surprise that we've seen them struggling. But I guess at the same time, with the resources and everything else that they have, I guess for me it just is a little bit disappointing to see them struggling so much at this point, even though it's still early.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of, for me, it's a similar tale minus the Newey part, but for Alpine as well. I think they've had,
Yeah.
again, a few kind of races throughout the past couple of seasons where you've seen them like deliver amazing results. You know that the drivers, have got some great potential behind them. And it's just a question of, yeah, how they can achieve it when, by contrast, you have someone like Williams who have obviously made leaps and bounds. And it's clear that they're trying to push towards that top 4, top 5 position. But yeah, going to be really interesting, I guess, midfield this season, as all those teams really, it makes a huge difference, right? If they gain 1 versus 2 points on a race weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you see that midfield playing out? Of course, we got the extra team this year, but we're expecting Cadillac to be further back on the grid. But we got, for example, Audi, which is not a new entrant, but it is a works team. They got their own engine now. Racing Bulls in the mix. Aston Martin, you just mentioned. Haas is always in there, and Williams. Williams, another team that started off this season kind of struggling. Who do you think, if we're going to say that the big four this year, the top four teams, will be McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull, who do you see being the best of the rest at this point?
Whoa, that's a good question. It's an early prediction to have to make. I think it's got to be for me. It's either going to be Williams or Haas. I believe. I mean, you look at the results that Sainz had last year. Alex is always there or thereabouts, and then with Haas, obviously, Ollie Behrman's been driving sensationally when he can. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but I think it's going to be one of those two. What about yourself? Who do you reckon it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's Williams, honestly. I mean, I was disappointed to see they didn't make the Barcelona test, but they've been pretty solid, actually, here in Bahrain, so I'm hopeful that it's not going to kind of have a knock-on effect for the rest of the season. So I would probably say it's going to be between Racing Bulls and Williams there, maybe, for the best of the rest. Obviously, like, I guess you have to throw Aston Martin in that mix as well, but they might only come on sort of at the end of the season when they've kind of got their things sorted out there. But it's going to be really, really tight in that area. But I do think we're definitely going to see a much larger field spread this season than we did, for example, in the last couple of seasons in F1. So, yeah, it's tough. It's going to be tough in that midfield, and so many things this year. I think what we see last week with the race starts, for example, the practice starts. I mean, you could basically be losing a couple positions so easily, I think, this year. So that should be interesting to see how that plays out, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other piece I wanted to get your thoughts on, of course, huge news this week that they announced that a sequel to the F1 film is in the works. I know that at the annual Academy Awards, the producer, I think Bruckheimer, mentioned that they're working on a sequel. I guess what it speaks to really, Chris, is that this is perhaps a really good opportunity for new people to get into the sport, new regs, new faces, the F1 movie, Drive to Survive. It's all come together. I think, compared to perhaps this last season or the season before that, how would you rate 2026 as a new season for people to get involved with the sport?
I mean, probably a good a time as any in terms of everything being new, everything being exciting. It's kind of usually a reset when we have new regulations. So it might be a little bit difficult, though, for this season just because of how complicated it is. I mean, F1 in general is pretty complicated just as it is, even in the last few years. But I think this season is probably even double that because I think it's telling when the drivers are even saying it's a little too complicated. I mean, even me, I had to make notes for myself about what exactly the overtake mode is and the boost mode and all those different types of things. So sure, I think it's always a good time for new fans to join in, but then at the same time, this might be more the difficult time to join with so many new things to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely check out your YouTube channel at Formula Maximale, for those tech insights. So I think, if anyone is following along this season, they can get some great knowledge there. And yeah, I think we saw, was it Lindblad actually went to Formula E, right, to have a look in Saudi, see how the cars, in terms of the electric batteries, are interacting there, which I thought was a super interesting decision to make.
Yeah, for sure. We might get Verstappen going there next too, because he thought basically what we got now is Formula E. So yeah. Did you? I'm curious. Did you actually watch the F1 movie?
I did, yeah. I went to the cinema to watch it. Found it, I guess for people who are new to the sport, yeah, it does that. But I felt that it also, the stewards were quite lenient on the car-to-car contact, perhaps compared to what we've seen in in recent seasons. I mean, how did you find the film?
I actually haven't seen it yet. That's why I was asking.
Amazing, amazing. It is worth. I'd say it's worth a watch. If you go into it with the mindset of this is like a Top Gun-esque film, but for motorsport, I think that's the right approach. You'll watch the racing, and I think with your technical insight, you're probably gonna, not be happy with some of the things that go on. But it's a lighthearted watch if you look at it in that regard.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I gotta kind of force myself to watch it, but I mean, the thing is I want to watch it because of the technical aspects in terms of how it was shot and filmed, because that was I saw a lot of clips about that, of course, and it's very cool. They use a lot of new cameras and new techniques, So I want to watch it for that. But then every time I saw the acting part of it, like clips being shared on social media, it was so cringy for me. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I mean, Drive to Survive is one thing, but anyways, I'll maybe have to try and catch a glimpse of it.
Definitely, definitely. I'm just seeing there, yeah, track's a little bit busier now. Quite a few people out and about. I was curious to get your thoughts on the Piastri and Norris partnership for this season. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think with Norris having won the World Championship, he's kind of ticked the box of what he's obviously tried to do in his career. So I don't think we'll see as many mistakes under pressure as we did in previous seasons. But I guess for Oscar, the pressure is now almost doubled in some way because he was so close yet so far. How do you kind of see? Yeah, that partnership working out throughout the season.
I would agree with you. I think now that Norris is world champion, it's just going to boost his confidence, and he's not going to have that in the back of his mind about, oh, I'm always known as the guy who bottles the race starts and the guy who can't get it done. So it takes a huge amount of pressure off him, and he can drive a little bit more freely now. And he's still young enough to where he's improving year after year. And I think that this season will be an even tougher challenge for Piastri because I still maintain this, that he should have won the world championship last year. He was leading the championship for 15 rounds, and then he just had an utter, like, generational collapse in form at the worst possible time and basically just handed Norris the title. So for me, it's going to be even harder because if you look at how the team orders played out last year, that was when, let's say, both drivers were kind of on even pairing. But now, Norris has got that number one on his car, so there's no doubt in anybody's mind that he's the number one driver at McLaren, as he should be, as the world champion, of course. So for me, unless Piastri comes out this year and just totally destroys Norris, for me, it's going to be hard for him to do anything really at McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really fair take, and I think obviously the team battles are one thing as well as the overall championships, right? So it's great to see when you do have two drivers going head to head, it always spices things up a little bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think with a similar sort of tangent, I think for Mercedes, George has obviously kind of established his position there as number one driver, but Antonelli did show some promise, I think, last season, and I guess pre-season testing is a great opportunity for him to continue to build upon that, and yeah, really go into round one and see if he can make an impact.
For sure, and team dynamics will be interesting, especially if Mercedes is as good as everybody says they will. Then basically you have Antonelli in his second season of F1, possibly challenging for the championship. So that should be really interesting to see how that plays out. And also with McLaren, we kind of don't know where McLaren is in the pecking order. They were impressive in week one, but let's say maybe they didn't show as much as Ferrari or Mercedes have. So I'm curious with their pecking orders this season because as the reigning world champions and also constructors champions, they were probably the least hyped team in the preseason or the least talked about, which I found to be quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's always it, right? Is there's so much going on and so much that can be drawn from preseason testing that it's easy to miss kind of a story here or a story there. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see actually, yeah, come Australia or the season just as a whole, really, like stuff like tire degradation, even just engine temperature management. They're all things that get thrown up at different parts of the season. You really notice certain teams having certain issues at even just certain types of tracks, to be honest. So yeah, it does give quite a widespread there. Colapinto as well, obviously been doing quite a bit of running over the course of the preseason testing. What do you make of him for this season?
Yeah, I mean that's it's going to be make or break season for him. He had such a good sort of rookie campaign when he was filling in there at Williams, and then last year was really tough for him. But again, in fairness to both drivers, the car was really poor last season, but this season is going to have to be definitely a season that decides his future in Formula One, because if he doesn't perform, yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much book closed on his Formula One career. And Gasly's not an easy competitor to go up against. But again, there's a question of where Alpine is going to be, a team we haven't talked about this season or as of yet. They've got, of course, the new power unit with Mercedes in the team. So talking again about the midfield, who knows where they're going to be. So I think we're going to get probably a lot of knock-on effects in the drivers' market this season. And currently, just speaking of Alpine, they're Pierre Gasly, who's got 61 laps on the board today so far. And I'm just trying to see here. Yeah, Colapinto should be in the car this afternoon. So I think Colapinto so far has done Just trying to look here on the driver map. It says he's done 6 laps so far, but hasn't set a time at the moment. And we got a red flag, actually.
Oh yeah, red flag coming out. I wonder who that's for. Stroll? I'm not seeing. Yeah, Lance Stroll's put it into the gravel, I believe, is what's happened there. So I know we were just talking about Tim, but I guess, yeah, an opportunity as drivers push the limits and the car pushes back during preseason testing. You may see 1 or 2 red flags appear. So,
Yeah, there you guys can see it on your screen there. The green of Stroll's dot there stopped just before turn 11 there. The high-speed sequence, I guess not so high-speed in these cars, as we're hearing from some of the drivers. But yeah, so we got first red flag of the afternoon session then. And the cars are going to head back into the pit lane as we're about a little bit more than an hour, I think, that we've been on the air so far here on the Formula Maximale YouTube channel. I am Chris Cato, joined by Josh Martin here from SimStaff. And Josh, while we got this little bit of a red flag layover here as we wait for Lance's car to get cleared up, I want to talk a little bit about SimStaff. And if you guys don't know, Josh Martin, of course, is the CEO of SimStaff. We did a podcast with him a little over a year ago. You guys can find that on the channel as well. And I was just curious about how's business going, what's new in your world, and anything that you want to let the fans know about in terms of your business or anything new going on in the sim racing world.
oh, amazing! A full ad slot that I'm going to take up here. No,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's been a good season for us as a business. Obviously, as F1 warms up, so does our sort of work schedules. So, continuing to provide those simulator and sort of turnkey event solutions for brands across the globe. Doing a lot of work in the world of Formula E now as well. So yeah, whether it's out in Canada through to Singapore, you name it, kind of we've got deployments out there. So yeah, really cool for us, and obviously great to see not only the teams and the drivers using simulators kind of trackside, but the amount of sort of fan activations taking place, around the Grand Prix and circuit villages through to even just wider trade shows. The simulators always provide such an interesting and unique experience for people to get an understanding of sim racing and how it is to be an F1 driver or a Formula E driver. So it's great to see. And we're kind of continuing to cement our position there. I mean, as you know yourself, Chris, a simulator really can give you some good insight, even if it's just learning a track or learning sort of racing lines or whatever the case may be. There's a really great way to kind of bring the real and virtual worlds together.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any plans or anything scheduled yet about maybe different F1 fan activation zones you're going to for this season or anything like that? Or is it maybe just too early at this point?
Yeah, we've got a few things in the calendar already. So Miami will be busy out there. Vegas is always a busy one for us. We are looking at some bits and pieces for the Canadian Grand Prix. Obviously, that's kind of changed in the calendar this year. So across Ontario, we'll probably be looking for some activations we'll be doing there with various partners. So yeah, plenty going on, and would be great to kind of see and maybe meet some of the listeners of the show. If as we're out and about, we'll be sure to kind of give you a heads up and yeah, see people there and turn some laps.
Great, excellent. Yeah, and you guys can stay updated with all the Sim staff activities. Sim_staff on social media on Instagram, and I believe the same on Twitter as well. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. The joys of trying to get the same handle across channels, but search Sim Staff, and I'm sure you'll find us.
Yeah, I know. I was happy when I did this little rebrand. I was able to get the same handle across all accounts, so that's good. But yeah, I'll drop that information, guys, in the description of this live stream. So whether you're watching now live or just watching back on replay, you guys can go and check out Josh and his work. Some very cool stuff going on there on his end. Still currently under not red flag anymore, but under yellow flag conditions. Lance Stroll stopped his AMR 26 right at the entry of turn 11, and you said I'm going to try to find that online, but that he beached in the gravel trap.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's what they were saying. Yeah, the BBC reporting that was what had happened there. So, I mean, I know it's not uncommon. There's been quite a few lockups and stuff throughout the session today, but I think it's just, yeah, one of those, right? The drivers are always going to be pushing the limits, and particularly as they kind of get this first running of the car understood, that's where it's really going to be, yeah, where I think we'll see more of those issues, those first couple of races being the big time,
Yeah, and yeah, I see it now. My F1 TV feed actually just came back. So Stroll's car looks like it has been cleared for the most part, so we should be able to get going within the next couple of minutes here or so. Just trying to get some pictures there for you guys of the actual moment there that Lance Stroll went off track. Oh, just a minute, check. Did we lose Josh here? Hey, Josh, are you still there? Nope, looks like we might have lost him.
Yes, you got me now. Sorry,
Uh huh.
connection maybe
There we go.
playing up a little bit.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. We got you back, so that's good.
Perfect, perfect.
And they're saying now pit exit is closed, so yeah, they're still working on the recovery of Lance Stroll's AMR 26. And yeah, here we got the morning report of the most laps completed. So this morning, Racing Bulls with the most laps done, 75 laps. Ferrari was 70, Mercedes 69. And then we go with further down on the list. The fewest laps done was by Red Bull with 13 laps. Of course, the issue for Isaac Hadjar. And of course, Cadillac as well with Sergio Perez had some problems. He only did 24 laps. And Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin only 28 laps. And then, of course, now with Lance Stroll having an off moment here, even less laps being done by Aston Martin. So further struggles there for the Silverstone team.
Always interesting when you see the kind of laps total up like that, because the teams are running so many different programs and drastically different programs throughout preseason testing to assess different parts of the car, even different strategies as it goes through. So I guess that's where that sandbagging competition always comes in, or conversation comes into play, as the teams try and assess what each other are doing. It's only really on a free practice session that the teams start to converge with their low fuel runs or high fuel runs or whatever the case may be. So yeah, always a little bit of unpredictability, I guess, coming into preseason testing, not just from the cars, but from the teams trying to interpret each other's strategies.
Definitely, and there's a certain amount of sandbagging that always goes on in testing. Obviously, you don't want to show your true pace all the time and straight away, but it's harder to tell this season just because of the massive shift of regulations. But for example, they were doing a lot of longer runs this morning, specifically in the Ferrari and also at McLaren. They were doing sort of some race simulations as well. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next day or two. And then I'm hoping that on the final day on Friday, we'll actually get to see some qualifying runs, which is interesting. We saw sort of some qualifying runs in the first week on that C3 medium tire, and it's definitely interesting watching the onboards because these cars, certainly even on a qualifying lap, it doesn't look like they're pushing as much as last year's cars, and I think those are some of the limitations of these new engines and of course these new regulations.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it, right? The drivers, they'll be quite vocal, I think, in terms of their frustrations with the cars at the moment, but they will get to a point where they kind of just have to settle and let that continue. And I think we are now back on track as well. I see Carlos Sainz is straight out as well as Isaac Hadjar. So yeah, as much as the drivers may be complaining, obviously as soon as the lights go green, they're going to make the most of every lap that they can get out there on circuit.
And it'll get better too. I mean, this is still early days, so it is expected that the lap times will be probably seconds slower than the last few years. But as we know in F1, that always usually ramps up. But I think my only main concern is, I don't mind if things are slower and if maybe the speeds through the corners aren't as high. But I think for me, there's a lot of talk about the management this year and batteries and then having to manage tires and fuel, the normal stuff. But I think it would be really disappointing if we weren't able to see F1 cars totally at the limit, at least in qualifying. I think in the last few years we were able to see some really awesome action on some great high speed corners with cars absolutely on the limit, low fuel, foot to the floor, battery at full power, and just being able to go through corners like never before. So that's maybe my only criticism so far. Is it would be pretty disappointing if, of all places, even in qualifying, these cars wouldn't able to go to the limit or even over it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that we may see change throughout this regulation period is if the viewing spectacle becomes sort of damaged, I guess, by the cars, then we know that it's not unlike Liberty Media or FOM to make those changes. I know we obviously explored different qualifying formats previously, but this is something that perhaps they can change quite easily. And we want to see the best drivers in the world competing at the top level, going as fast as they can, right? So if there's ever a time to do it, even if it is condensed to qualifying, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the action, it's ramped up again out on track. We finally got cars lapping around. 4 cars currently out on track, as you see there on the tracker. Hamilton, Hadjar, Sainz, and Colapinto. Colapinto just starting a lap there, as well as Lewis Hamilton. Isaac Hadjar, if you guys are watching the live action at home, he's currently on your screens and out on track. And yeah, Hadjar finally getting some laps in after the problems earlier this morning. And yeah, still pretty quiet though so far after that red flag, but things should be ramping up now as we got 3 hours to go. A little bit less than 3 hours to go actually in this session. So still plenty of time there. And of course, now in Bahrain, conditions will start to change as the sun goes down and we get into the night session as Carlos Sainz just popped in there to 10th place, 136.6.
Indeed, yeah, it's interesting to see Carlos always being one of those drivers that's consistent. Obviously, has a lot of pace and potential. Made that commitment to Williams to help them lift up the grid, and I think could really cement part of his legacy if he's able to deliver that for them. So a driver very much gonna make the most of, I think, the opportunities that come to him.
Yeah, hopefully he does. Of course, he gave up the chance to be a works Audi driver and instead decided to go to Williams. So hopefully, I mean, if it continues like it was at the end of last season, I think Sainz will have made the right decision. But of course, we'll have to wait and see whether that will be like that for this season. But yeah, Carlos Sainz in the car this afternoon for Williams after Alex Albon was there in the morning. So he's going to be doing a lot more laps. And I'm just trying to see at the looks like currently Lewis Hamilton with the fastest speed trap time of 321 kilometers an hour. It's been interesting to kind of keep track of that. You kind of see which engines are reaching some of the top speeds. Maybe that kind of gives us into a hint of who's sandbagging and who's not.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's certainly shaping up to be an interesting season. I think a lot of potential to come. Really excited to kind of see what happens. I do need to drop off, but yeah, excited for it to see the rest of the season, and of course, following the great content that you guys are producing throughout the full season as well.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you could have joined me for this part of the PM session. So thanks again, Josh. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be in contact with you throughout this season. And yeah, guys, go and check out his work. I will post all that information into the description of the video, so you guys can find him on social media. Josh, thanks again so much, and I'll be talking with you soon, probably.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Have yourself a good day. All right, everybody. That was Josh Martin from SimStaff. Josh, a good friend of the show, and we've had him on a couple of times for podcasts and for live streams, so I appreciate him being the second mic here on the channel during the first hour of the afternoon session here. So, guys, I will be periodically on and off on the microphone here, standing by, looking at the times, looking at the data. I will jump on every couple of minutes or so, maybe just to do talk a little bit about the action or to do any sort of updates. In the meantime, I will be working on the summary and recap video for later today that will be going up on the channel. So yeah, if you are watching live right now, just drop a comment in the chat where you're watching from around the world. I'd like to know. And of course, if you want any particular driver's telemetry up on the screen, also drop that in the comment, and I will be keeping an eye out on the chat and to respond to your requests and comments. So yeah, hope you guys are enjoying. Thank you for watching so far. Subscribe to the channel. I've got plenty more live streams coming, and yeah, I'll be back on the mic real soon. All right, guys, Chris back here up on the mic here. You're watching the Formula Maximale F1 preseason testing day 1 afternoon stream. Just going to jump on the mic here and do a quick update as we reach the top of the hour with 2 hours remaining in this session. We will be live for the next 2 hours here, of course, on YouTube. And we just actually had a new fastest time of day 1 from McLaren's Oscar Piastri, 133.4 for the McLaren. He's got 31 laps up on the board, 2/10 quicker, almost 3/10 faster than Charles Leclerc's time of 133.7. Leclerc did 70 laps in this morning, but Hamilton, his teammate, currently in the car for Ferrari, he's got 24 laps on the board, a 5th fastest time, a best time of a 134.2. He's 8/10 off the pace. Isaac Hadjar, who had a lot of problems earlier in this morning, not so much more laps done so far. We've had about an hour and a half so far in this session. He's only completed 28 laps on the day. He only did 13 this morning, so it hasn't gone as smoothly in this afternoon session either for Red Bull. Further down in the grid, we got Esteban Ocon in 13th, but he's done a really healthy amount of laps so far today. He's got 65 on the board. Further, also in the top 10, you got the 2 Mercedes, George Russell in 6th, Kimi Antonelli in 4th, and they've got a really good amount of laps done so far. Kimi Antonelli was 69 laps in this morning, and George Russell so far on 32 laps, so he's on a very healthy run at the moment. Carlos Sainz, who we saw out on track as well, he's in the car this afternoon for Williams, and Carlos has got 24 laps on the board so far. He was out on a prototype tire stint just earlier as we were following him. He's got the 7th fastest time so far. And further down in the grid, we got the 2 Cadillacs of Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas. Perez, a lot of struggles this morning with the car, wasn't able to get a lot of running. He's down in 20th, only 24 laps on the board, and his teammate Bottas is in the car today, and he's got 6 laps on the board. The only driver not participating in today's test is, of course, Max Verstappen. He will be in the car all day tomorrow, which we will also be live on YouTube as well. So I'm going to get back to the sounds of the cars from the Bahrain International Circuit. I will still be on the bike. I'm going to be going for a quick lunch break right now at the moment. It is 3 o'clock local time here where I'm streaming in Serbia, and I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. And of course, let me know where you guys are watching from, and if you got any questions, if you got any requests for driver telemetry, just drop it in the chat. I will be keeping an eye out for your live chats. So, yeah, I'll be back on the mic in a little bit longer time now, about 15 to 20 minutes from now. And, yeah, stay tuned for more from the Formula Maximale F1 testing live streams. I will see you guys in a minute. Alright guys, Chris here, back on the mic for the Formula Maximale F1 preseason testing day 1 live stream here in the afternoon session. Thank you to everybody who's been watching. If you've just joined us, welcome to the stream, welcome to the channel. Good to have you guys all here for today and for this week's testing. We got about an hour and 16 minutes, or just about, actually an hour and 15 minutes under left in today's F1 testing session. We've got a lot to cover in the next hour or so. I'm going to be on and off the mic in the next 60 minutes, doing the coverage of the testing, looking through all the data, looking through social media for trackside updates, and everything in between. So if you guys are new to these streams, it's pretty simple. You've got the live timing there at the center of your screen, and then we've got the driver tracker, which is a direct live from the Bahrain International Circuit, so you can see which drivers are out on track, and then I got your social media updates in the bottom right-hand corner. So far, we've got a new leaderboard. We got about 30 minutes ago, we had a fastest time of testing so far set by Oscar Piastri, which was a 1:33.4. He's got 46 laps done on the board today. Charles Leclerc in second, George Russell third, Lando Norris in fourth, and rounding out the top 5, Kimi Antonelli in fifth. We're going to do a more detailed recap coming up at the top of the hour in about 14 minutes or so. A lot to talk about today. It's been pretty smooth running so far here on this first day of the second week of F1 testing. But as you guys can see there on your social media update screen, it really has been about this Ferrari rear wing trick that we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. Ferrari debuting some new bodywork at the rear of the car, which is going to help extract extra downforce from the SF26, especially at low speeds as well. It's a very clever little piece of engineering that they've debuted here, and all signs point to it being well within the regulations and well also within it being legal. So great news if you're a Ferrari fan. It looks like Ferrari have been quite on top of their stuff so far in F1 testing. Charles Leclerc doing 70 laps this morning. Lewis Hamilton only 24 laps so far in the afternoon. Lewis Hamilton has been in the garage for quite some time now, actually, more than an hour or so, as I think Ferrari are trying to sort out some sort of issue on Hamilton's car. I'm going to try and find some updates on that as well. I'll put that up on the screen when we see it. Whoever's out there listening right now, let me know where you're watching from or in and around the world. I'm always curious to know where our viewers are watching from. If you want to see any of your favorite drivers' telemetry live on the screen, just let me know. Currently, we've got Piastri, Sainz, Hadjar, Colapinto, and Russell on track. If you want to see any of those drivers' live telemetry straight from the cockpit, just drop it in the chat and I will post it up on the screen in the middle. All right, I'm going to get back to working on the summary video right now, guys, but I'm going to keep my eye out on the screen, and I'm going to be jumping on and off the mic from here on until the end, giving you guys some updates and some of my commentary on the action from Bahrain. So continue to stay with the Formula Maximale channel. I appreciate the support, guys. Also give this channel a subscribe if you want to see more of these live streams for the rest of the week, and I'll be back with you guys at the top of the hour just to go through a rundown of the time so far. All right, guys, so less than an hour remains in the first day of the second test in Bahrain, and let's do a quick update on the times of the day and the leaderboard. Still no change at the top from this afternoon. It is still Oscar Piastri with the fastest time of the day. Not only fastest time of the day, but also the fastest time of F1 testing so far. A 1:33.4 for him. He's 2/10 ahead of Charles Leclerc, who remains in second. George Russell in third. Lando Norris in fourth, rounding out the top five. The second Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli in fifth. Lewis Hamilton, this is a driver that we're going to focus on right now. He's sitting currently sixth fastest in the times for today. He's in the car in the PM session. However, there is a suspected engine issue in that Ferrari, in that second Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, and he has been stuck in the pits for well over an hour and a half now. He's only done 24 laps so far today in the afternoon session, so a big loss there for Lewis Hamilton after what was a very strong session in the morning for his teammate Charles Leclerc, because Leclerc finished 70 laps in the morning session. So we're going to try to get an update for you guys if we hear anything, but with only an hour left to go, not a lot of time then for Lewis Hamilton to get in some laps. Another driver who didn't get in a lot of laps today was the driver right behind him, Isaac Hadjar, in P7 with the best time of 1:34.3. He's 1 second off of the pace, but he's only done 46 laps so far. He's actually a driver that's been in the only driver today actually who's in the car all by himself, and he missed the entire morning session with a water pressure issue. I believe it was a leak from at some point in the car. He only completed 13 laps in the morning. He's got 46 laps so far on the day. Then rounding out the top 10, you got you got Carlos Sainz in 8th, Franco Colapinto in 9th, and then Gabriel Bortoleto in the Audi in P10. Further down in the field, Alex Albon in 11th, Liam Lawson 12th, Pierre Gasly in 13th. He's done 61 laps so far today, a good healthy amount of laps. Same goes for Esteban Ocon in 14th. He's got 65 laps on the board. The struggles continue for Aston Martin as they're down there and they're lonesome in 15th and 16th place. Fernando Alonso had troubles in the morning, referring to reliability once again. He only did 28 laps. Lance Stroll so far in this session, he had a spin at the entry into turn 11. It seemed like it was some sort of an issue with the active arrow potentially being stuck open, and that led to a spin and his car having to be recovered from the gravel. Luckily, he was able to get back out on track, but he's only got 15 laps done so far. And then rounding out the drivers for today, Nico Hulkenberg in 17th. Arvid Lindblad had a really, really good morning session with 75 laps on the board, the most laps completed in the AM session. And then the rounding out the top three there, or the last three there, Oliver Behrman in 19th, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas for Cadillac, respectively sitting 20th and 21st. So Cadillac with a lot of issues today. They haven't had a lot of running on their end either. Perez, 24 laps this morning. Valtteri Bottas, only 18 so far in this session. And you can just see how far off they are from the pace. 4.7 seconds off the pace from Perez and a further 7 seconds off for Bottas. So they're just trying to do a lot of system checks and reliability checks at this point. Nothing so far showing pace. I see a comment here saying, any chance of adjusting the graphics so all 22 drivers show, please? Yeah, absolutely. I actually seem, let's see, who are we missing? Yeah, so we're missing there, I think, Perez and Bottas at the bottom of the screen. I will get those adjusted. That is something I actually haven't gotten used to this year yet, is to have 22 drivers on the full graphic. And of course, 21 drivers are featuring today in this session, as Max Verstappen is actually the only driver who hasn't featured it today. He will be in the car all day tomorrow, and then Red Bull will be splitting between their two drivers for the final day on Friday. So I'm going to try and get that graphic there fixed so that you can see all the drivers on the screen. And in the meantime, again, let me know, guys, where you're watching from around the world. Just say hello in the chat. And if you'd like to see any specific telemetry from your favorite driver or any of the drivers that you see out on track at the moment, just let me know. And just quickly, actually, before I jump off the mic here and let you guys get back to listening to the sweet sound of F1 engines around the Bahrain circuit, I wanted to just give a quick update on the power unit saga that is going on currently in the Formula 1. And they had an update today with the meetings that they have with the FIA and the power unit commissions. It looks like Mercedes will be able to run their power unit and their engines as is until possibly a change will be coming in August 1st, 2026 that still needs to be voted on. Quote, the FIA has recently launched an e-vote primarily centered on a proposed change to the assessment of the power unit compression ratio in running condition. So basically, just to summarize, if this vote goes through on August 1st, they will be measuring that compression ratio at a different way than they are now. So for example, with this new vote going in, then on August 1st, compliance with the compression ratio limit must be demonstrated not only at ambient temperatures, but also at a representative operating temperature of 130 degrees Celsius. So that is the big development today coming from the meetings, as along with a bunch of other stuff as well that we might talk about before the end of today's stream. But just wanted to give a quick update for you guys there, as Isaac Hajar actually just pops up into 6th place with his fastest time of 1:34.2. It moves him a little bit closer to the best time of Piastri. He's 8/10 within the pace. He just completed his 49th lap of the day. Stick with us. We still got about 50 minutes to go here on this live stream today, and I will be back on the mic within a couple minutes' time to give you guys further updates. Enjoy. All right, guys, less than half an hour remains in today's running. This is day one, the afternoon session here in 2026 F1 preseason testing. Chris here on the mic to close out this day's action with you guys here. I'm just going to do a quick update on the time, as we just had a new fastest time of the day and also a new fastest time of testing so far, set by Mercedes' George Russell. He just crossed the line about a minute and a half ago to set the new best time of 1:33.4. He did that on the C3 medium tire. It was his 65th lap of the day, so he's had a very solid afternoon of running so far. He had a lockup actually going into turn 10 on the previous lap, which he went purple in the first sector. That messed up his lap, but then he came back and ended up putting it together. But only 1/100th of a second faster than McLaren's Oscar Piastri, who's currently sitting second place right now. He's got 63 laps on the board, and he's actually currently out on track at the moment. So those times still could change at the top of the leaderboard. Charles Leclerc sitting in third for Ferrari, Lando Norris fourth, and Kimi Antonelli fifth, rounding out the top five there for Mercedes. A really healthy number of laps today done for Mercedes. A pretty solid day of running for them. No real gremlins on their side. 65 laps for Russell, 69 laps for Kimi Antonelli. So a good solid day for Mercedes. Also for Ferrari, started off really well in the morning, but then in the afternoon, Lewis Hamilton ran into some engine issues. But the good news is Hamilton is currently out on track at the moment. He's got 33 laps done on the board, 7th fastest time, and currently lapping as well. So with about 27 minutes to go, Hamilton still with plenty of opportunity to get some good running in and try and salvage some of the problems here that they had in the afternoon session. And interesting as well, just to take a look at the speed trap numbers. The fastest speed trap times belong to the Ferrari power units today. It's the Audis actually who had the two fastest speed traps times, with Bortoleto fastest at 332 kilometers an hour and Hulkenberg at 328 kilometers an hour. Now, if we look on the converse side of things, George Russell with the fastest time today of testing, but the 11th fastest speed trap time, only 323 kilometers an hour. So just an interesting difference there of maybe some of the different types of engine modes or energy deployment that they are using. So definitely still some sandbagging going on for sure in terms of ultimate pace, but nonetheless just kind of gives us a little bit of a picture as to what the teams are running. And yeah, one of the bigger stories of today, guys, as you see in the social media updates panel down there, is this SF26 upgrades that we saw this morning. Some new bodywork on the rear of the car above the diffuser, which is very interesting. Really aiming to try and give the Ferrari more downforce ultimately, just overall in their package. And it's one of the things I will be talking about later today when I do my summary and recap video. I'm currently working on that as we speak, and I'll be uploading that probably within 2 to 3 hours of the completion of today's F1 testing session. So make sure to check out the homepage of my channel, and also enable notifications on my channel as well, so you never miss when I do a new video. So 26 minutes left. The track is quite busy at the moment. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars currently lapping as we speak, and so far so good. We haven't had any type of red flags yet in this afternoon session, bar none from Lance Stroll, who went off track, but he was able to recover his car. He's actually currently out on circuit at the moment. 24 laps done for Lance Stroll in this afternoon session, in which he missed most of it as well. But some pretty healthy laps across the board. Ocon has done 65. Arvid Lindblad did 75 this morning. As I mentioned earlier, Leclerc was 70 in the morning. Kimi Antonelli 69. Isaac Hadjar 57 laps, but that is a bit slightly disappointing considering he's been in the car all day but missed a good chunk of the morning session. Gabriel Bortoleto in the Audi, they've had a pretty solid day of running, 62 laps for him, and Nico Hulkenberg with 49 laps. So we're going to keep an eye on the action here for another 25 minutes or so. We're going to see if any of the teams at the top decide to put a little fuel out of the car and maybe go for a performance run to steal the fastest time away from George Russell. But we'll keep it updated on there. Still got my eye on the chat if you guys want to comment anything, or if you have any requests for driver telemetry. I'm going to be here to answer your questions. I'll be back in about 15 minutes or so to wrap up today's stream. I'll see you guys then. All right, so coming up on less than 10 minutes to go in this session, less than 10 minutes to go in the entire day of day 1 of the Test 2 in Bahrain preseason testing. I'm going to be on the mic with you guys for the last 10 minutes or so to take you through the action and to see if we're going to get any changes at the front of the timing sheets. It is still George Russell who's got the fastest time so far. And we're going to keep an eye on if any of the teams are going to try to do anything faster than that in the next 10 minutes or so. Oscar Piastri currently sitting in second. He's less than a tenth off the best time, but he's currently doing a racing simulation. He's on some long runs at the moment. We've got a lot of cars out on track. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars out on the track right now in the last 10 minutes or so. They will be doing actually a new starting procedure as well in about 8 minutes or so time to end this session, so it should be a little bit interesting when we get to that point to watch that. So yeah, it'll be around, it should be soon actually, it will be around about in a minute or two right now. There will be a red flag, all cars will turn to the pit lane, and then from there they're going to do a formation lap followed by an extra formation lap before lining up on a grid for a simulated race start. So once everyone is in position, a pre-start warning will begin. All grid panels will flash blue for 5 seconds, and after the blue warning ends, the normal start sequence will kick in. So this is also in relation, as we see right now, we have, red flag is out, just perfect timing as we report on that. So that will probably mostly about do it for the running, which means that our timing sheets should stay stable, and we shouldn't get any more fastest laps on the day, but we should be able to see this new starting procedure, which of course comes from today after they had the F1 commission meeting and the meeting of the power unit manufacturers as well. But this was one of the key points talked about today, which was the starting procedure, which has been a topic of conversation ever since the test last week because of some of the issues with these new cars. Of course, these new power units in 2026, they have to be revved for much higher revs and also for much longer as well. There's no MGUH this year, which means there's nothing to spool up the turbo, so it needs to be done by revving the car for a much longer period of time and at much higher revs, about 12,000 RPM. And so this was one of the areas of concerns for the teams because it changes not just the entire start procedure for the drivers, but also for the FIA as well. If you guys remember, on a normal race start in the last couple of years, by the time the last car slots into their grid spot, the 5 lights are on pretty much automatically, and boom, the race has started. But this year, there's a lot more going on in the cockpit of the car as well for drivers to prepare, which means that I think some of the starting procedures needs to be changed, and that's one of the reasons why we're getting this test here at the moment, as some drivers have brought up these concerns, and of course the teams themselves have brought up the concerns with these starts. So we're going to see that in about 5 minutes time of what these new starting procedures will look like. If you guys saw the start from last week at the end in day 3, or excuse me, day 2 it was a little bit of a shit show, as they would say, because you had Franco Colapinto, who basically lost it as he was trying to do some burnouts, warming up the rear tires, and then you had some cars who went, the other cars who didn't. That was more so just a procedural issue, not really relating to the actual starts themselves, because some drivers were told to go on the lights, other drivers were told to hold until later, so that's why we saw such discrepancy. But I'm curious to see how it's going to play out now, as some cars are coming out of the pit lane, doing some practice starts there, and then we're going to get our formation laps, and we're going to get a look at a start. And I'm going to have the live telemetry here as well up on the screen with some of the drivers so that we can actually see what the revs are going to be like and what gear these drivers will be pulling away in. So that should be pretty cool. So stick around for that. While the drivers get out on there for their practice starts, we're going to just basically wrap up the day's action here. There's 6 minutes left officially in the session. I will be on the air for another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm off to prepare the recap and summary video for today's action, which I'm going to be uploading about 2 to 3 hours following the conclusion of this event. So that's probably going to be around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Central European time, about 1 to 2 o'clock p.m. in the East if you're watching back in the Americas. But so far, it's George Russell, the fastest time here on day 1 in the second week. That will most likely not change. So he's got the fastest time today of a 1:33.4. That's actually the fastest time so far in testing in general. And he set that just about 40 minutes ago or so. So this was an afternoon session time. But Oscar Piastri in second place, not that far behind, less than a tenth of a second in between it. Piastri showed some pretty good pace today and also was doing a lot of long runs there before the red flag. 70 laps on the board for him. George Russell so far the most laps here in this PM session. He's got 76 on the board for himself. Charles Leclerc's AM time of a 1:33.7, that still stands as the third fastest of today, and only about 3/10 off of what George Russell managed to do. Charles Leclerc had a very, very good morning session for Ferrari. 70 laps on the board for him. Continued Ferrari's good form. Lando Norris in the other McLaren, he's fourth. Kimi Antonelli in fifth, rounding at the top five for Mercedes. 69 laps for him done in the morning session. We mentioned this a couple times today. Isaac Hadjar had some reliability issues in the morning session, was some sort of a leak on the car. He only did 13 laps in the morning, but he has managed to come out and do some consistent lapping here in the afternoon. 66 laps in total for today. Max Verstappen will take over in the car all day on Thursday. Lewis Hamilton and the other Ferrari, another driver who had issues with reliability today, had some sort of an engine problem that kept him in the pit lane for over an hour actually in the afternoon session. He only managed 44 laps so far in this PM session. Not terrible, but also not great as well. But Ferrari honestly has been relatively bulletproof so far in terms of reliability. So not a huge surprise that we saw some sort of an issue at least for the Scuderia, but better to get it resolved now than in the first race in Melbourne. And then rounding out the top 10, we have Carlos Sainz in the Williams. He did 55 laps this afternoon. Colapinto in the Alpine, and Gabriel Bortoleto rounding out the top 10 for Audi with a 1:35.2 and 71 laps completed. Audi did a lot of great running today between their two drivers. And just to show you the timing discrepancy, of course, we're not really reading too much into the lap times so far, but Gabriel Bortoleto 1.8 seconds off the pace. So that's the difference between 10th and first. And of course, if we go further down even to where the Cadillacs are, Sergio Perez 4.7 seconds off of the pace. So yeah, Cadillac had another kind of rough day here because they had some reliability and mechanical problems that kept them in the garage. So not a lot of laps done for them today. Bottas 35 in the afternoon and Perez only 24 in the morning. So the drivers are currently doing their formation laps out on track at the moment. So we're going to jump over to our live timing, and we're going to get some, we're going to jump on board with these drivers to try and see some of their practice starts. If we can get this now. Oh, let's see. Oh, well, this is a perfect time for it to freeze. So it looks like the drivers have got away already there. Oh, so we did actually miss that. Yeah, there is a slight delay here, so my apologies there. But we can still keep a track on the driver tracker. So it looks like all things went fairly smoothly. If you guys are watching there on your F1 TV feeds or anywhere else. So yeah, a lot of changes coming this year, not just for the start procedures, but everything else. But start procedures were a main topic of concern in today's F1 Commission meeting, so there's going to be a lot more fallout coming from that. So we're going to keep an eye on that too and talk about more of that on tomorrow's stream as well. Yeah, just a reminder about that, guys. I will be live again tomorrow for 6 hours throughout the day, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the morning session tomorrow, and once again from 2 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. All those times are Central European time zones. So again, check the homepage of the channel, and I will be live throughout the day doing similar to what I'm doing today: live commentary, timing, all the telemetry, trackside updates, different things like that. So if you don't have access to any TV provider to actually watch testing, why not watch it with me? And hopefully you guys get some different looks at telemetry and data than you would on any other stream. So let's see if the drivers are going to make their way around again to do another practice start. I believe that they will here. So I'm going to... Let's see if we can get this up now. There we go. So it looks like they're going to do one more practice start as well. We've got less than a minute left in this session. So let's take a look whether the drivers are actually going to do another practice start. Yeah, it looks like they will. So we're going to get another practice start here. So let's pay attention. We're on board currently in the telemetry with Oscar Piastri. and Lewis Hamilton. So pay close attention to the RPM. So currently idling at the moment at 4,000 RPM for the Mercedes engine, around 3,500 RPM for the Mercedes engine. And we're really curious to see just how much revs it takes for these cars to launch off the grid here. We've got Piastri, he's engaged the brake at the moment, still in neutral. Lewis Hamilton is in first gear. He's currently revving to about 11,000 RPM or so, but he has to sit there revving fairly high. So the Mercedes PU revving at much higher at around 12,000 RPM. So about 1,000 RPM more than what Lewis Hamilton was doing in the Ferrari. So very interesting look there at the telemetry, but yeah, it looked pretty good on the starts. All the drivers were able to get away fairly well, I think, by the looks of it. And no issues there. So I think that they're going to go around for one final time, and then that will be it. They will probably be in the box after this one. And that should do it for today's action then. So yeah, very cool to see the start there. You kind of get a little bit of a mini race here coming out of turns 1 and 2. So that's cool to see a little bit of a preview of what the racing is actually like. But the checkered flag has fallen. That is it for the first day of the second test here in Bahrain. And we're going to be on the air for another couple minutes or so just to do a quick wrap up, and then we will be on our way to work on the post testing wrap up video coming in a little while. But pretty good first day here on the second week of testing. No real major issues, I would say. A lot of cars were able to do a lot of running throughout the day, and it is George Russell who is the fastest on this first day. Again, Mercedes continuing a pretty good run of form here for themselves, and another good news for Mercedes today, not really any gremlins or any type of issues that they had in that first week, but healthy laps across the board between the top 4 teams, with the exception of Red Bull, who will be disappointed with Isaac Hadjar and them not being able to get out more laps in the morning. But they do still have 2 more days of testing to go. Max Verstappen in the car tomorrow for Red Bull, and then they will split the days between the 2 drivers on Friday. So that about does it, guys. I will wrap it up here then for the Formula Maximale YouTube channel. I have been Chris Cato. If you've been listening throughout the day or just been watching, I appreciate you guys following the channel and deciding to watch testing here on YouTube with me. I am back tomorrow and also on Friday for more extensive coverage of F1 testing. Of course, remember, guys, the best way to keep up to date with all of my content is to like, to share it, and also to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new videos or the notifications when I go live. I will be live tomorrow again for day 2, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then once again at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. All the full schedule is posted on the homepage of my channel. Once again, I appreciate everybody out there for watching and for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you again soon. It's bye for now.